1350 is a Bengali calendar year, that there was a big famine. Did you remember that famine? That the young children, which should be kept in mother's breast, but due to the hunger, the mothers are selling their children. But that famine was not for any natural calamity, not for any drought, flood or anything. It was the greed of the businessman, the war supplier, because they hoarded all the foods.
The issue isn't just food.
30,000 children are estimated to die every single day from poverty-related causes.
Food isn't a privilege, it's a basic human right.
This is the leanest of seasons, and all 25 children here at this nutritional rehabilitation centre in Shivpuri are dangerously malnourished by any measure. There are 100 centres like this supported by UNICEF in the state of Madhya Pradesh. At the best of times, 60% of all under 5s are malnourished here, mostly from vulnerable castes and tribes. Now, with the latest food crisis, many more are being admitted.
Mother not able to feed the child. The capacity of purchasing of that mother is very, very, very less. They are very poor.
Monsoon rains have failed for the past 5 years, pushing people to the edge. Food is a battleground between man and beast. Every scrap counts. Her children are drained and hungry.
We're not in an era where climate change is some kind of a future hypothetical. We live in a world where impacts of climate changes that have already occurred are widespread and consequential.
This latest climate change report is aimed at helping governments prepare a workable deal to cut rising greenhouse gas emissions. The report recommends a shift from fossil fuels to renewable energies.
And I would like to emphasize, in view of these impacts and those that we have projected for the future, nobody on this planet is going to be untouched by the impacts of climate change.
NASA satellites measure the sun's energy, which fluctuates due to a 10 to 12-year cycle. Could increased solar activity be causing global warming? Satellite evidence shows us that the solar cycle has only a slight impact on our planet's temperatures.
The greenhouse effect begins with the sun and the energy it radiates to the Earth. The Earth and the atmosphere absorb some of this energy. This in the atmosphere traps some of this energy and reflect it back, warming the Earth. Some climate models predict subtle changes. Weather patterns could change, making hurricanes more frequent. Severe droughts could become more common in warm areas.
The report says economic growth and crop yields being stunted worldwide as temperatures go up. Low-lying developing countries and small island states will be hit even harder, and longer and more frequent droughts are also expected to affect resources.
Large parts of India are presently in the midst of a heat wave. Let's hope it doesn't get worse in the months ahead.
It is peak summer season in most parts of India.
This time I think it is past 6 or 7 years
this March and April are too hot.
हाथ पैर एकदम जल रहे हैं बुरी तरह से, बाहर निकलना मुश्किल है, मतलब घबराहट सी हो जाती है एकदम बाहर निकलते ही.
Never in the last 10 years, says the Met Department, has Kolkata been this hot on this date of April. 40.6 degrees at 1 p.m. this afternoon, 0.5 more than yesterday, and it promises to get much worse before it gets better.
इस गर्मी ने तो तबाही मचा दी है हमारी. अब देखिए ना कि इस वक्त ट्यूबवेल्स का पानी जो हमें एक दिन के बाद मिलता था, अब वो 2 दिन के बाद उसका प्रेशर भी नहीं है.
Temperatures across the country have been way above normal for this time of the year. The Met Department says no rains plus lack of moisture in the air was causing the dry heat. They have warned heat-wave-like conditions will prevail for the next 48 hours.
The report also connects climate change to rising food prices and political instability.
Years ago, the previous generation maybe was damaging our atmosphere, the earth, out of ignorance. Now ignorance is no longer a good excuse.
Climate change and keep it under an additional 1 degree Celsius or 2 degrees Fahrenheit, we would need to begin to decrease the CO2 emissions.
Over the period since industrialization began, we have added an enormous quantity of greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere. That warming of the climate system is unequivocal. We also concluded that most of the warming that had taken place since the middle of the last century was very likely on account of increase in the human-produced emissions of greenhouse gases, which have added to the concentration of these gases in the atmosphere. And if we want to avoid, eliminate or delay some of these impacts, then it's going to be absolutely essential that we mitigate the emissions of greenhouse gases. This planet and its ecosystems, its natural resources are protected and conserved in such a way that they not only benefit the current generation but would be able to ensure the opportunity to benefit for future generations as well.
Opportunities for dealing effectively with climate change are opportunities for building more robust economies and more vibrant communities.
To cut rising greenhouse gases, a shift from fossil fuels to renewable energies, which some describe as an insurance policy for the planet.
The one message that comes out very clearly is that the world has to adapt and the world has to mitigate. And the sooner we do that, the less the chances of some of the worst impacts of climate change being faced in different parts of the world.
A group of climate activists and NGOs urged world leaders to take action.
This is the time to act, cut emissions, to fight climate change. They have ample opportunity this year and next year at important climate summits, and that is when they need to put better policies on the table to save their people and the environments we depend on from climate change.
We draw attention to one of the most urgent moral issues.
The International Energy Agency and other influential bodies are now warning us of an unthinkable 4 degrees Celsius rise in temperatures if greenhouse gas emissions continue to increase.
Recent experiences of extreme weather events, both here and overseas, are a mild foretaste of what this will mean.
With our small population, we are one of the world's 20 largest emitters and one of the 2 largest coal exporters.
We must wind back our exports of cheap coal, which are currently hindering the global drive for renewable energy.
Coal exports are certainly a moral issue because we actually exporting a product which is going to be burned and wreck the environment.
We must diminish our reliance on fossil fuels and replace them with clean, renewable sources of energy.
Inaction on climate change will doom the planet, and we're already seeing the results of that, and I think the science is in and it's very clear. Our responsibility, our moral responsibility, is to act to end the devastating effects on climate change. If we fail to act, that's a failure of moral leadership.
The government is today announcing that we will be holding a review into the renewable energy target against the 41,000 gigawatt hour objective. Secondly, we want to make sure that we review the progress of the renewable energy target in terms of investment certainty. And thirdly, we want to address efficiency in relation to electricity prices. There's both conventional and renewables, including solar and wind and biomass. We raised about 1,700 megawatts of renewable energy into the national electricity market.
Energy ministers and specialists from more than 50 countries have gathered in New Delhi to promote renewable energy. The aim of the two-day international seminar on energy access is to identify and remove the existing barriers. Addressing the delegates, Indian Prime Minister promised reliable electricity to all Indians in the next 5 years.
Such a large number of countries have congregated here today kindles our hopes and aspiration for a more prosperous and better future for all of us.
Prime Minister Manmohan Singh has said India will double its renewable energy capacity to 55,000 megawatt by 2017. On We Mean Business tonight, we discuss whether in the current environment where interest and investments in the clean energy sector have cooled off substantially, are these targets realistic? We'll also talk about how critical it is to bring renewables into the mainstream at a time when our dependence on fossil fuels has become virtually unsustainable.
Welcome to the final session of the community-based adaptation. I'm just looking at the poster behind us, conference in Dhaka, Bangladesh, and we've managed somehow to get Dr. Pachari, the chair of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, so it's a rather rush interview because I've dropped my book in the excitement, and we've only got a couple of minutes before it begins, so straight into it. You've been there nearly 10 years in this post.
9 years.
9 years. Right. What about adaptation? Has it risen up the agenda because of the failure to get hold of mitigation?
Well, it certainly has risen up the agenda, but we haven't really come up with specifics on what needs to be done, either at the global level or even more importantly at the local level in different parts of the world. So I think what we really need to do is now to come up with substance in how communities can adapt and what is it that is required by way of policies, financial resources, technologies, to assist particularly the most vulnerable regions in the world to be able to adapt to climate change, because the inertia in the system is such that even if we were to bring down emissions to a substantial level of reduction from current levels, climate change will continue for a few decades at least. So adaptation is inevitable and rather urgent.
Community-based adaptation, has that got a place, or will governments kind of keep hold of the reins, as it were?
No, I think the initiative has to come from the grassroots level. It has to be community-based. Of course, one must facilitate this at the international and national levels, but the capacity to bring about adaptation and the ability to mobilize all the resources that are required at the local level is essentially something that communities have to seize as their responsibility and their mission.
Welcome to the third World Future Energy Summit. It gives me great pleasure to see that so many of you have returned to Abu Dhabi for this important international gathering.
Gandhi said it all when he pointed out that the earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed.
It is the moral and ethical responsibility of the global community to help some of the worst affected regions in the world. And these, unfortunately, are going to be the poorest regions in the world.
We cannot negotiate with the laws of physics. We cannot cut a deal with Mother Nature.
These are, of course, a big part of the current mix, but they're going to be an even bigger part.
I think this is the center of the clean energy revolution that is going on around the world.
renewable energy meetings and conferences. Indeed, people have called it the Davos of renewable energy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the question is no longer whether or not we can afford sustainable energy and climate policy. The question is actually, can we afford the impacts of climate change?
This summit will not only be a source of inspiration, but a catalyst for action to achieve a clearer and more sustainable future for our world.
This conference is important for creating a nucleus. This belief that development will create the solutions for the problems that development has created is the wrong way. So that we have to find new solutions. If we are able to create a strong renewable energy industry, we will have a key element for a clean future development. And that this development is not depending on exhaustible sources, oil or the uranium or what you want. We are not fighting against the conventional energy, that is what we have today, but we have to convince the people and the government, and also there are enough business leaders that are also convinced that it's necessary to use more renewables. And because the emissions are growing steadily and very strong, if we have the time for make this shifting, so that it is a matter of urgency.
I'm very happy to be part of this important seminar jointly organized by Danish government and government of Gujarat. This is a very important moment in the history of renewable energy. Gujarat is committed to green and renewable energy. Friends, to my mind, the issue of how to generate renewable energy is a secondary one. The primary issues would be how to save the energy in an environment of ever-increasing energy needs. This issue has become important in view of climate change. We must organize our lifestyle and production cycle in a way that we save energy. We have to set up such technologies and process which are sustainable. I am glad to say that recent thinking on renewable energy is addressing many of these issues. When we are talking about the solar, land is also an issue. We have planned such a manner that we can sort out the problem of the solar, we can sort out the problem of the water, and we can sort out the problem of the energy. Once it came to my mind, I was talking to some business people and some technical person. I requested them that look at our Narda canals. Can we have a cover on the canal of the solar seeds, so we can save the evaporation of the water, we can produce the solar energy, and the land problem also solved. And now we have come to conclusion, so 1 kilometer long canal will give a 1 megawatt solar energy, and not only that, 1 kilometer canal yearly will save 1 crore liter of water. Then again, when they came with the proposal and the detailed map and everything, so again I requested, when we put the solar panel, can we have a micro hydro turbines in it? When the water flow from the canal, it can generate hydro, it can generate solar, it can save water, it can save land, and nearby the villages are available, so transmission loss is also less. So this is the unique model we are developing here in Gujarat. Today our focus is on making the generation of renewable energy cheaper. But tomorrow, even if we get a breakthrough in technology and are able to produce cheap renewable energy, the need to optimize its management across the chain still remains. In wind power, with an installed capacity of 2,255 megawatts, we are contributing more than 4,500 million units of electricity. Thus, we are saving more than 3 million tons of coal and avoiding carbon dioxide emission of 4.5 million tons every year. I am quite sure that this seminar will suggest new ways to promote investment, technology, innovation and transfer in these fields. It is very important to exchange views and ideas to make this world a better place to live. I am sure this gathering will throw more light on the way forward. You will be doing a great service to the humanity, because the whole world is looking for right answers to many right questions in the field.
Sustainable energy was the theme at a summit in Brussels. The Commission has announced a €50 million initiative to support developing countries.
It's really a missed opportunity because they haven't put a figure on the total amount of money that's really needed. That got removed from the draft of the report. The needs are in the order of hundreds of billions of dollars, and the current flows of finance are really in the low billions of dollars.
सूरज की चमकती तेज किरण सरसर बहती जाती ये पवन झरझर नदियां
सुन हम सब से ये कहती है घर घर को जब प्रकाश मिले
आंगन आंगन जब रोशनी हो हर गांव नगर में बिजली हो तो सुन माना
We need an agreement that can unleash green investment, create green jobs, and jumpstart a lasting economic recovery. Together, we can make a difference. Your children and their children will thank you.
सूरज की चमकती तेज किरण सरसर बहती जाती ये पवन झरझर नदियां
लकड़ी सूखे पत्ते बेकार जो फेंकते हैं कचरे सच ये है कि वो बेकार नहीं
सच ये है कि जिस दिन तुझे कहीं इनका प्रयोग